Hello and welcome. Lesson number 11, Life Cycle Selection. This is going to be a very important lesson because in your exam there are going to be quite a lot of questions where they'll give you scenarios, project situations, and you will have to decide which life cycle is good for that project scenario. So by the end of this lesson, I'm going to make sure that you understand how to answer those questions. So what are we going to cover in this one? We will understand what is project life cycle, different life cycle models. Then we will understand a concept called Stacey complexity model. It is for the same thing to understanding which life cycles are good for which project. Then we will talk about each of them little bit in detail, iterative, incremental, agile. And then I have prepared a summary, a comparative view for you so that you know how exactly they differ from each other because there are similarities. So you need to understand at which point you will decide based on which characteristic of the project you will decide which life cycle is better. And then I have included one question to give you an end-to-end understanding of how are you going to answer those questions applying all these concepts. So let's get started. What is a project life cycle? Now the project is, what does it mean in simple language? Some work that needs to be done. How will the team do that work is decided by project life cycle. This is the simplest explanation possible. So in project management, a life cycle is the sequence of stages a project follows. And if you have already done your work on predictive approach, which is waterfall approach, you know that initiation and planning and execution and monitoring and control, these are the phases that you have in a project predictive life cycle. So these life cycle decides what are the stages that a project is going to have. It provides a structured approach for dividing a project into phases, helping organizing tasks, when are you going to do what are the resources going to do, how are they going to be placed, and the deliverables for each phase. The chosen life cycle model influences, affects, determines how the team plans, executes, and controls the project, ensuring alignment with its goal and constraints. What is goal of the project? What do you want to achieve? Constraints, what are the circumstances or situation of the project? That is constraints. Okay, now we will start with a high level understanding and we will keep double clicking and understanding more. So now this view is important. You are seeing four approaches here: incremental, agile, predictive, iterative. Now first let's get two terms out of our way: predict predictive and adaptive. Okay, I've not written it here, but these three are adaptive approaches. So on a bigger level there are two types of approaches: predictive and adaptive. Predictive is your waterfall method and all three come in adaptive. Now what is the meaning of these words? Predictive means where everything is planned in advance. Okay, the meaning of the word also suggests that. Adaptive is where you make changes based on the situation. So you adapt to the project situation. And these three come into the umbrella of adaptive approaches. Now you're seeing that here is a graph here where I have put four quadrants. On x-axis you have degree of change from less change to more change. So as you go from year to year, the change required in the project is increasing. Frequency of delivery is how often do you want to deliver a completed product. So this quadrant is low degree of change and low frequency of delivery. Predictive approach, very limited change, everything is decided upfront and single delivery. So if the project has low degree of change and the frequency of delivery is only once, then you go for predictive approach. Then if the degree of change is less but the frequency of delivery is more than one, then you go for incremental. If the degree of change is more, okay, there are more uncertainties, and the frequency of delivery is not much. It's not required to be a lot or very frequently. Then you go for iterative. Don't worry, we will talk a lot about it so you will understand what I'm saying here. And then agile, where both of these aspects are on a higher side, change is also more and the frequency of delivery is also more. And agile is the sweet spot between incremental and iterative. It's a mix of both these approaches. We'll see how. Now, quick definition of these four: predictive life cycle, traditional linear project management approach, also known as waterfall method. Okay, iterative life cycle. Iteration means doing something in time boxes again and again. So, an approach that allows feedback incorporation and unfinished work for improvement and quality. So the key word for iterative approach is feedback incorporation. Remember this for now. Incremental, one after the other, little bit at a time, one on the other. Increments, an approach that provides finished product incrementally that the customers can use. And agile is an approach that is both iterative and incremental. We have already studied the whole agile approach. We see that people work in iterations, they deliver finished product more often, and they also have feedback loops. So agile incorporates the qualities, characteristics of both iterative and incremental approaches. And why do we need all these different life cycle models? Let me take a minute here to explain that. Every project is different, and no one lifestyle is fit for all the projects. Not every project can be agile. So if you have to construct a bridge, you don't need agility there because the entire plan and everything is rolled out. You can't really make changes when the bridge is half done. Okay, and we are talking about big planning changes. So agile is not appropriate for all the projects. Same way, predictive is not appropriate for all of them because sometimes there may be changes, different customer needs. That's why you need to have multiple projects, and there is something called hybrid, which involves elements of each of them or whatever is needed as per the project needs. Moving on. Okay. Now there is a model which is Stacey complexity model. This is used in your agile project guide, practice guide by PMI, to explain how predictive and adaptive approaches suit the scenario. Now, as you're seeing here, there are four zones based on requirement and uncertainty. What is requirement and uncertainty? That we don't know what exactly is needed. If the customer is not sure what is needed and they want to explore as the project progresses, the uncertainty is more. Technical degree of uncertainty. Customer knows they want an app that uses biometric login. That's the example that is coming to my mind right now. But so that is not uncertain. They know what they want. Okay. But the developers are not sure how they are going to do it. So complexity is there. So technical degree of uncertainty is more. Okay, so that is the meaning of these two types of uncertainties. Teams can plan and manage projects with clear and stable requirements and clear technical challenges with little difficulty. However, if the uncertainty of the project increases, the likelihood of changes, wasted work, and rework also increases, which is costly and consuming. So, all these things people need to keep in mind. Now, let's talk about these four zones. Simple, which means both the uncertainties are low. We know pretty much everything about the work that needs to be done. So, predictive approaches are good. When we move along this chart and the uncertainty is increasing, complicated, complex, adaptive approaches work here. This is an area which is beyond control. So first we need to minimize the uncertainties and then think about what project lifestyle is good. So this doesn't come under the purview of deciding which approach is good. We talk about these three. Again, a summary: predictive gives control and predictability. Adaptive provides flexibility and rapid response to change. Okay, now we will talk about iterative. In this lesson, I will not talk about predictive because predictive is its own topic. You need to go through PMBOK guide, and I'm not focusing on that approach in this course. So we will talk about iterative life cycle. Okay. The key idea behind iterative life cycle is gathering feedback. Remember that. Okay. Gather feedback. Why do we gather feedback? To refine the outcome. Say you're developing a pharmaceutical drug. Okay. So you need to start with a formula and then test it, do lab testing, and then gather feedback. See how it is going on, and then you need to refine the product. So gather feedback, refine the product until you have the quality that you want. That is the idea of a iterative life cycle. Core concept is gather feedback and refine outcomes, create prototypes, get feedback, refine product. Use time boxes to manage iterations like you have in Scrum. Best, this project life cycle is best for high complexity projects with frequent changes, with evolving, changing stakeholder needs. And I put an example here, like you're building a new website for an online store. So initially the stakeholders require a basic product page, but when they look at it, they want more uh, features, they want to add more complexity to it. So you keep working on it, until you have what customer needs. Now let's talk about increment. Always remember, increment means one after the other. More delivery. Okay, more than one delivery. So the core concept is delivering value faster. Optimize for speed and delivery. Speed of delivery is needed. Delivers usable portions of product in stages. Customers receive a subset of product before full completion. Okay. Example, developing an app where essential features are released first, customers start using it, and then you keep adding additional features in increments. Agile, as I said, mix of both of them. Okay, now where is my point? The main point of Agile, for simplifying, is that we expect frequent change. Agile incorporates the characteristics of both incremental and iterative approaches. So in a project where you need frequent deliveries but there is a lot of change and feedback is required, then you go for Agile approach. Now very important, there are two types of Agile: iteration based agile and flow based agile. Scrum that we studied till chapter 10 was iteration based agile. Let's see what they mean. So iteration based agile, like Scrum, work is done in fixed time periods called sprints. At the start of each sprint, the team plans which tasks to complete. Once the sprint begins, the team focuses only on those tasks. So you're working in time boxes. That is iteration based agile. Okay. At the end of the sprint, the team delivers a working piece of the project and reviews. We know this. We do retrospective and we do reviews, and then we start working on something else. That is your iteration based agile. Okay. Now, so for example, you're baking cookies. Let me give you an example here. Each week you bake as many cookies as you can in 2 hours. So what is main? 2 hours. Time sprint is fixed. And after 2 hours, you stop. This is a very simple example. Baking cookies, I mean, it's not a real project, but yeah. Okay. Now what happens in flow-based agile? First of all, example of flow-based agile is Kanban. So there are no fixed time periods. Team keeps working, but they fix the work in progress items that at any given point of time we will work on these items, and once they are over, they are completed, we will start working on new ones. So work flows continuously and tasks are worked as soon as there is capacity in the team. The team limits the number of tasks being worked on at any given time to ensure focus and quality. As tasks are completed, new ones enter the system. You keep adding it to your to-do list, keeping the process flowing smoothly. Okay, so now again, baking cookies. But instead of working within 2 hours time, you bake cookies at one point in time, ensuring each batch is done well before starting the next one. So there's no rush to finish, but you keep baking continuously. That is flow-based agile. Now, this is very important. I have done this to make you understand this in the easiest way possible. If you look at it, you will get the whole idea of how to compare them and how to understand which one is good for which project. So you see here, these are project aspects: requirement, activities, delivery, objective, and then you have all four approaches. So if the requirements are fixed, activities are performed only once, single delivery is expected, and objective is to manage cost, then predictive is good. First three are more important. Iterative. Requirements are dynamic. In all three, they are adaptive approaches. The requirements are going to be dynamic. Iterative is repeated until correct, something that needs to be refined until it reaches a point of quality that is needed. You go for iterative. Single delivery. Incremental. Performed once, all the activities are performed once, requirements are dynamic, but the deliveries are smaller and more frequent. Okay. And in Agile, you have both the elements of iterative and incremental, repeated until correct, and then frequent small deliveries. So customer value is given via frequent deliveries and repeated feedback incorporation. Now it's time to practice a question. Okay, now this is a question which will give you an idea of what kind of questions are going to come in your exam. Okay, so you will have a scenario and you'll have to select which project lifecycle approach is better. So let's look at this example. A multinational corporation plans to implement an enterprise-wise financial management system. So this is the project, they know what they want across all business units. It's a large project. The system must comply with strict regulatory requirements. So there are constraints. The environment is fixed, not so dynamic. The system must, okay. And stakeholders have clearly defined needs. Very important. The requirements are fixed. That's our cue. Okay. However, due to project's complexity, now there is a twist. Project's complexity, leadership wants to ensure that each module is tested and refined before. Now, again, this is your cue: tested and refined. What are you thinking now? Can it be predictive? First, we might think that, oh, it's fixed requirements. Can it be predictive? Maybe, but then how are you going to test and refine if it's predictive? Okay. Do you need agile? You don't need agile for it because your requirements are fixed. Okay. So what do you want to do here? You want to go for an iterative approach because refinement, customer feedback, retesting, all of those elements come into your iterative approach. Okay.